More moves are coming as insiders reveal the Vancouver Canucks are actively looking at making trades to clear up cap space in order to acquire a top free agent left on the market. We're going to break down everything from these insiders revealing quotes on the Vancouver Canucks as they actively look to move on from contracts in order to go out and be aggressive in the free agent market going into the remainder of the summer, and so much more in this episode, and you're not going to want to miss it. But before we get into that, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, we're trying to reach our goal of 8,000 subscribers, just under 60 away. So if you're enjoying this daily Canucks content and you want to stay up to date on everything to do around this team, go down and hit that free subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And in return, we'll give you updates from all around this team. Well, with that, let's just hop straight into the first topic today, where we did get some quotes from Thomas Drance. Now, the first one coming from his tweet, he said it may be midsummer, but Canucks management isn't off to the cottage just yet. Here, the club is monitoring a couple of UFA options still on the market. No surprise, given their recent history. Vancouver needs to move out cap dollars first, plus they're actively working to do so. Now, before we get into the players that they're actively looking to move out from, we know the Vancouver Canucks like to go bargain bin hunting. Suter, who signed with St. Louis, but when coming to Vancouver, signed on August 10th, 11th, one of these days, was a bargain bin adding, scoring 25 goals just last season. This is where the Vancouver Canucks can actively go out to look at players they can bring on a cheap contract as teams are starting to lose cap space, and they can still go out and add players that have a lot of value. And we're going to break down one player in particular that fits the mold perfectly. Now, before we get into that, we know the Vancouver Canucks need to make a trade as they only have $800K or just shy of it in cap space going into next season. Now, we did a full video just speaking on Dakota Joshua and Teddy Blueger as they've been recently put in to trade talks by the Canucks, or reportedly at least, and this would free up a decent amount of space as the Canucks look to solidify their bottom six with more goal scoring and so much more defense. But with two of these players, moving them out would hurt, and you do need to replace them. And we know Patrik Allvin and company, Thomas Drance, wrote on The Athletic. This full article is going to be down below. It's an awesome read. A late summer cap shedding trade could give the Canucks more space to sign a forward on the open market, and at the very least, it seems the club is exploring its options this summer. Now, we know the Canucks have been more active than recent years during this. We know a lot of their trades do come during training camp, but we've seen Shilov traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which I understand a bit of a trade that hurts with the status in Vancouver, but going out to move on a player that they probably would have lost on the open market on waivers going into next season. So the Canucks are continue exploring every possible option, and it does get very interesting when you're looking at the top remaining free agents. Now, looking at this, Matt Grzelcyk, a defenseman. The Canucks do not need that. Olofsson is very tempting, a left wing that went out to score 15 goals last year and 29 points in 56 games. But the biggest one that draws my eye is the center, 28 years old, Jack Roslovic, who scored 22 goals and 39 points with the Carolina Hurricanes last year, making it to the conference finals of the Eastern Conference. There is a lot of value with Jack Roslovic, and we're going to break down exactly what you're getting out of him, possible contract, and so much more. But with the remaining forwards, I think this lines up to almost look like another Suter signing if the Canucks can get this done. Now, last season, we know Jack Roslovic, 22 goals in 81 games, playing 9 games in the playoffs, was a healthy scratch for a bit of it, but putting up 4 points. The year previous, 16 games in the playoffs, 8 points, not putting up a lot, but only limited to 19 games with the New York Rangers. But the biggest thing with Roslovic, a center that has scored 20 goals multiple times in his career. We've seen all the way back in 21-22. With the Columbus Blue Jackets putting up his career high of 45 points, and this past season in 81 games with 22 goals, Roslovic brings a new edge to this Canucks team where he can be a goal scorer in this bottom six as they look to roll out a competitive 4 lines, and not that they don't have it yet, but even more competitive lines going into next season. Now, with Roslovic as center, he hasn't played the most minutes in the past couple of years at the center position, having a very good faceoff at 54%. Only taken about 400 faceoffs over the past year. But the biggest thing with Roslovic, 22 goals in just under 13 and a half minutes, just under 14 minutes with Carolina, with a bigger role with the Canucks. Roslovic could step in and score more goals. He was sub 50% on the faceoff dot during his career early years with the Columbus Blue Jackets, but aging, maturing. He is starting to look more like a center as the days goes on, and he is a bit of a utility player that can slide in to a top six if injuries happen, or he could be a very good third liner on this Canucks team, and we'll break down how he fits on that just a bit later. But Scotiastat does have him projected for a bit of a raise, and we know he's coming off his $2.8 million one-year deal with the Carolina Hurricanes. Still on the open market, there's a lot of teams that are reportedly interested, but if the Canucks can free up the cap space to go out and get Roslovic on a one or multiple year deal, things would be perfect. With Scotiastat, they have him projected on a 3-year, $4.2 million deal. Now, this is pretty dead set, as we've seen a lot of Scotiastat's projections being pretty on the head with the money. But the big thing is a 1-year deal at just under $2.8 million. This would line up perfectly for the Canucks and Jack Roslovic. With the Canucks, we know they need to make cap space. They don't have the most space going into the remainder of the summer. Jack Roslovic, who might look for a big payday, can line up perfectly where he signs another $2.8 million deal. Could have a career year with the Vancouver Canucks if he scores 20 plus more goals. This would line up perfectly for when the cap raises once again. The Canucks can either look at an extension or Roslovic can hit another open market, get a bigger payday on a multi-year deal. I think this works on both sides. Bringing this in to the Canucks locker room on a $2.8 million deal would line up perfectly with getting your best value out of it and him getting his top dollar going into next season. Now, the biggest thing is we know Patrik Allvin wants to explore everything. Thomas Drance, once again, this article will be below. What's the Athletics' understanding about the club's priorities here in mid-July? Canucks brass is actively exploring avenues to free up cap space. So just going back on them still looking for cap space, with all the reports, it seems like something is going to be in the works. This could happen as I'm recording this, maybe tomorrow or in a couple weeks from now. But this team wants to continue getting better with the free agent market slowly getting drier. It would not shock me if this team is looking at getting it done sooner rather than later. Now, looking at the Canucks team, of course, they need to move out cap space in order to add a new face like Jack Roslovic or Olofsson to this lineup. But right now, if you do move on from Dakota Joshua, who's, listen, I want to keep Dakota Joshua. I love Teddy Bluger. But if you can free up cap space, bring Roslovic in, if he can score you 20 to 30 goals on that third line, I think you're getting a lot of value with this. But with this, it would give you options. If the Canucks want to move on from Dakota Joshua or Teddy Bluger, you can put Jack Roslovic straight in that center position on the third line, or slide him straight to a winger position. If you want to move Evander Kane down, you can do this as well. Höglander can take over a third line role, though I really like the Höglander, PD, and Boeser line last year. There's a lot of options this Vancouver Canucks team can do and will actively look at doing. I mean, from the reports alone, they're not going to the cottage yet. Jim Rutherford is probably in office right now, still on the phone. Canucks fans, what is your thoughts on all this? I know this is a very interesting offseason. We've seen all the rumors that Brock Boeser was most likely gone, and then he turns around, signs an extension, and most likely will retire as a Canuck. We've seen Thatcher Demko extended. We've seen Shilov's moved in order to free up space on this goaltending duo. What is your thoughts on how the Canucks management has been handling this year? Would you like to see a bit of a retool on the forward group? And by retool, I don't mean trade everyone out, but adding some new faces to this roster to add and make more competitive moves later on in the future. Let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. Once again, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you want me to cover anything in particular, there's so much news flying around. Go down and let me know down in the comments. I love reading through them, even the negative ones. They're a little funny sometimes. But that'll be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I've been your host, Mark. Bye, and take care, Canucks fans.